earthquake!
Imagine waking up every morning, knowing the ground beneath your feet could split apart at any moment. In most countries, a single earthquake can erase entire cities. Skyscrapers dance, bridges bend, trains stop, millions survive. Japan reinvented engineering. Welcome to Preshcute Diary. It begins with a whisper, a tiny vibration people mistaken for a passing truck. Deep beneath Tokyo, something ancient is waking. Then it hits. Not a tremor, not a warning tap. The full force of the earth itself, unleashed beneath 8 million people. And yet, it does not fall. A building that should collapse, doesn't. Beneath it, hidden engineering absorbs earthquake forces. But this is only the beginning of the story. To understand why this building survives, we must go beneath the city, to where 4 tectonic plates collide beneath Japan. 4 plates, one nation caught directly in between. 4 tectonic plates, one nation caught between them. Japan doesn't experience earthquakes occasionally, it experiences thousands every year. And within this danger zone lies one of the largest cities ever built. Tokyo. 40 million people, one deadly fault system. So why does the city still stand? It all began with one earthquake that changed everything. September 1st, 1923, 11:58 a.m. One earthquake would change Tokyo forever. No one knew they had 90 seconds left. 11:58 a.m. Magnitude 7.9. A million Kukyo into an inferno. It wasn't the earthquake they remembered. By nightfall, over 100 fires became one unstoppable firestorm. Soon, the fire was creating its own weather. Over 100,000 people were gone. It remains one of history's deadliest disasters. But from the ashes came a bold decision. Japan wouldn't just rebuild, it would rebuild differently. From the ashes of Kanto, Japan made a historic choice. In 1924, it introduced its first seismic building code. It was the beginning of a safer future. January 17, 1995. 5:46 a.m. Kobe slept peacefully. 20 seconds later, 70 years of confidence lay in ruins. 5:46 a.m. Magnitude 6.9. The Great Hanshin earthquake rips through Kobe, not sideways but upward, as if the earth itself had thrown a punch. At sunrise, Kobe was unrecognizable. More than 6,400 people were dead. Engineers around the world were stunned. How could an earthquake-ready nation suffer such devastation?
Kobe exposed a painful truth. The old building code had saved lives, but it wasn't built for a quake this powerful. Japan had to rewrite the rules of earthquake engineering.
But shaking alone wasn't the only enemy engineers discovered in Kobe's wreckage. Something far stranger had happened beneath the ground itself. Solid earth had turned to liquid. Liquefaction changed everything. No matter how strong a building was, if the ground turned liquid, it would sink, tilt, or collapse. Japan had to fight an invisible enemy. Soil compaction wasn't enough. Japan's biggest structures needed deeper foundations, reaching past unstable ground into bedrock. With the ground beneath them finally secured, engineers turned to a question that would define modern Japan. How do you stop a skyscraper from simply shaking itself apart? Surviving one shake was not enough. Engineers needed buildings that could survive being tested again and again and again. The answer wasn't just strength, it was the ability to move. But not every building can support a multi-ton pendulum at its summit. For thousands of Japan's mid-rise buildings, engineers found another solution, hidden within the building itself.
Combine deep foundations, base isolation, dampers, and flexible steel frames, and you get buildings designed to move with earthquakes. Like a tree bending in a storm instead.
Buildings weren't the only thing at risk. Every day, hundreds of thousands travel at nearly 200 miles per hour on Japan's bullet trains. At that speed, an earthquake could be catastrophic. For over 60 years, the Shinkansen has never lost a passenger to an earthquake. That's no accident. Its safety system detects danger faster than humans can react.
Seconds. That's all the system has. Seconds to slow a train weighing hundreds of tons, traveling at nearly 200 miles per hour, violence of the earthquake ever arrives.
But the Shinkansen is only one part of Japan's warning system, one that reaches every phone, television, and home across the nation in a single heartbeat. But the most dangerous earthquakes in Japan's history were never just about shaking. They were about what comes after, when the ocean itself turns against the shore.
Run faster! Don't look
The
back!
sea did not simply return. It came back as a wall, 40 meters high in places, moving faster than any human could outrun.
When the water receded, nearly 20,000 people were gone. Japan's engineers faced one impossible question. How do you build a wall tall enough to stop the ocean?
The answer, engineers realized, could not be a single wall. It had to be an entire system, layers of defense working together, each one buying precious minutes for people to run.
But even the tallest seawalls can't guarantee survival. So Japan built something just as vital: vertical refuges, rising above the waveline along its most vulnerable coasts.
Japan's greatest defense isn't concrete or steel.
Okay, keep counting, stay low.
It's memory, passed from one generation to the next, so when the earth shakes, people already know what to do. A resilient city isn't enough. You must know how it's performing in real time. That's why Japan relies on a network of sensors that never sleep. Sensors have limits, so Japan sends robots into the cracks and shadows where humans cannot safely go.
Detecting danger is one thing. Responding in seconds is another. So Japan built a disaster response system designed to move faster than the disaster itself.
Plans mean nothing without practice. So every year, millions of Japanese citizens rehearse for the unthinkable, on a scale few nations have ever attempted. But one question still haunts Japan's seismologists. Beneath the ocean, a fault has been building pressure for decades. When it finally breaks, it has a name: the Nankai Trough Megaquake. A Nankai Trough Megaquake could claim over 200,000 lives and cause more than $1 trillion in damage. But Japan refuses to wait. It prepares. The next great earthquake isn't a matter of if, only when. For over a century, Japan has been preparing for the disaster it knows is coming. So how does Japan survive this powerful earthquakes? Not through invention, but through a century of engineers, scientists, and citizens determined to outsmart disaster. To understand this engineering revolution, we must look back once more, not at disaster, but at Japan's relentless pursuit of one question: why do buildings fail? By the 1980s, Japan's engineers were ready for something radical. Not just surviving earthquakes, but stopping their force before it reached the building. The first base-isolated building survived every earthquake unscathed. Within a decade, base isolation became the new standard. Rebuilding infrastructure was only the beginning. Along the Tohoku coast, a greater challenge remained. How do you rebuild when the land itself is no longer safe?
A decade later, those elevated plateaus had become thriving towns, rebuilt not just to survive the next tsunami, but shaped by the lessons of the last.
The greatest lessons weren't found in the ruins, but in what remained standing. Engineers searched for the reason they survived.
Lessons forged through generations of tragedy now shape Japan's newest buildings. Nowhere is that more visible than the super-tall towers rising over Tokyo today. Digital twins can simulate thousands of earthquakes, but hospitals must still be tested in the real world until they prove they can survive.
Multiply that one home by millions nationwide, and you see Japan's quiet engineering revolution, touching every street and family.
With buildings protected, engineers focused on the highways that failed in Kobe, determined it would never happen again. Above ground, engineers rebuilt the arteries. But beneath the streets, another battle was underway, protecting a hidden world most never think about, until it fails. Above it all, the real challenge wasn't steel. It was human behavior in the first 60 seconds after the shaking stops. The network feeds Japan's warning system, but detection isn't enough. The real question: can a megaquake be predicted? Every layer, foundations, dampers, exists for one uncomfortable truth Japan never forgets: none of it has faced the earthquake they fear most.
Even without perfect prediction, Japan refuses to wait. Instead, it built something rare, a legally mandated response that activates the moment risk rises, before any quake begins.
All of it built for one question: can a nation survive the Earth at its worst? To find out, we return to where it began.
Japan has spent a century preparing for this. A magnitude 9 Nankai Trough rupture. It's a simulation based on official hazard data,
nationwide protocol,
showing its worst-case future. In Tokyo, the warning comes. Seconds before the shaking,
Just enough. Every system activates at once. Magnitude 7.2. Still rising. Activate protocol.
Now, the ground begins to shake, and everything Japan has spent a century building is finally, truly tested. In Tokyo, the buildings held. But 300 miles south, near the rupture, a different test had already begun. The one no engineering can fully stop. The wave was coming.
When the simulation ends, the numbers tell an unimaginable story. Not 0 casualties, but a fraction of what once was.
But numbers alone can't tell the whole story. We return to the people who survived the disasters that started it all, and witness what a century of resilience has given them.
Kobe's story lives on across Japan through thousands of quiet victories. But even as one chapter closes, engineers are already preparing for challenges no one has faced before.
While these materials are years from widespread use, one technology is already changing earthquake response, assessing damage quickly without putting humans at risk.
Faster damage assessment means faster rescue, but rescuers must first reach survivors. That's why Japan built machines that never tire and never fear the most dangerous places.
Robots can search, machines can predict, but no algorithm can replace community. That's why Japan builds temporary housing for those who lose everything.
Community rebuilds the heart of a disaster zone. But Japan knows recovery must reach beyond its borders, sharing hard-won lessons with a world that desperately needs them.
As Japan shares its knowledge abroad, at home it continues to ask itself an uncomfortable question no engineer ever wants to answer. What happens if all of this still isn't enough?
Good morning. I'm ready to begin.
This is not a nation that believes earthquakes. It is a nation that has simply refused to stop trying. A century ago, her great-grandfather stood in Tokyo's ashes, wondering if survival was possible. Today, she continues his work on a scaffold, proof the answer was always yes.
Step back, and the full picture comes into focus. Not a single wall or invention, but an entire civilization built layer by layer, each protecting the one above it.
This system wasn't built overnight. It grew from earthquakes, failures, and hard lessons, a century of turning tragedy into concrete, steel, and rubber.
Yet for all this extraordinary engineering, Japan's true foundation was never concrete or steel. It was a simple, unshakable belief. Every life is worth this much effort. As the sun sets over Tokyo, millions sleep safely above unseen technology, quietly below. They never have to notice them. That's the point.
So how does a nation survive earthquakes this powerful? Through a century of resilience. Japan didn't conquer earthquakes, it learned to dance with them.
Thank you for watching Presh Cute Diary, where impossible stories become reality. Because sometimes, survival itself is the greatest story ever built.